We're back!
Woo! Woo!
Yes! Welcome to the Wednesday week, sponsored by the wonderful Riverside Cafe. I'm James. Eddie is with us.
Good evening. It's great to be back. It feels like the start of a new season. That's maybe because it's the start of a new season.
That would explain it. Fudge is here.
Hello. You all right? I was trying to do a different accent there.
You're back to being a northerner. Dicky as well.
I'm here. Hello there.
And she is back. It's Vic.
Hi.
I don't know about you guys, right? I reckon this summer's gone really, really, really fast. It doesn't feel like 2 minutes ago that we were doing the end of season podcast and saying, oh, it'd be nice to have the summer away from it all, won't it? And yet here we are again. What about the World Cup? Did we enjoy it? I quite enjoyed the World Cup.
I adored it. I think this is one of the, honestly, not since 1998 has this been a summer that I'm going to remember for years to come. I've still not managed to dissect how poor the actual football was on England's behalf, but I'm still in that, Gareth Southgate, baby, you're the one, you stood to me, you know what I mean? As much as I'm aligned that song online for a good few weeks, I found myself singing it when we inevitably got knocked out. But yeah, it's nice, isn't it? I'm having a good summer. You know, I watched Love Island final last night. Don't Caroline Flack look like bloody awful?
Do not come at me with
We
this.
thought she looked lovely last night, didn't we, Eddie?
She looked like she
Absolutely.
beaten up behind the back of a bloody skip.
Not as good as Megan, though.
The shit you like watch.
Hey, I will have you know that the last 6 weeks of my life, between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m, have been spent on the phone to Eddie watching Love Island, and it's been amazing.
Weirdos.
Yeah, but he also finds
does sound a
naked
bit dodgy,
photos
that.
of them all. He finds naked pictures and just sends me them at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You just sat at your desk, you're like, fucking hell, that's Megan with no clothes on.
Oh, when you said naked pictures, I thought you meant of Eddie.
Hey, it has been a long, hot summer. Let's be honest.
After the watershed.
Suddenly my summer feels much more productive now listening to you lot.
Yeah.
Right, Wednesday business then. Owls in the Park. Let's talk about that first. Because Rich and Vic, you were there, but not for long. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I like it warm, but it were too hot for me. And there was no shade. There was nothing. Like, they normally have that beer tent thing, don't they, Rich? And we've spent many an hour under there. And this year, there was just nothing. It was way too hot. It was like, I think it was like 32 degrees or something that day. And it was solid sunshine. And there was just nowhere to stand. I just couldn't handle it.
It was a really hot day. And that like you said, that tent that they usually had in the middle of the bar area wasn't there. I hung around a bit, but I mainly frequented the bar. No shock there, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it was great if you've got kids. And
meander down to a couple of stands with my client, but that was it.
the thing that I loved the most, Rich, and I know you saw as well, was that the players actually got more involved this year. So there were like five-a-side games going off with kids. And then like they'd call for a sub and Fernando Forestieri would just come on and play. And it was great. And you could tell as well like which lads in the team were dads because they were really getting into it. Like, everyone was like really getting involved, like dads and uncles. Like Barry Bannon loves, like, there's no way of saying that now. Why have I said that? Barry Bannon loves children. But you could tell that he was having a really nice time. And it was really, really good to see. And it was just such a nice atmosphere. But like I said, it was just too hot. Just too hot.
I think there's been so many things on this summer with tram lines and everything like that. I've kind of forgot about Owls in the Park because it was so early this time as well. And they had a kit there, which was, well, a soft launch, as it was described, that, which I thought was a bit of a cop-out for we haven't got much stock. And he could have just said that, really, couldn't they? But there we go.
I had two downsides, though, to my full day. One of them was not seeing you, obviously. The first one was that I didn't see Atty at all.
I knew you were going to say that then.
It was a really sad time, though. Like, remember that time that I held on to him for like 5 minutes and wouldn't let go until someone asked me to? I didn't get to do that this time. And the second one was that Sam Hutchinson's got a blonde fringe. And it just screams midlife crisis.
Now, is this right? Has he bleached this, or has he just, been on holiday somewhere
it was bleached.
That's got a very specific sun intensity?
No,
it's not quite as bad as Neymar's, is it? But
he might put a bit of sun in, and in the sunshine at home, or a bit of lemon when your mum won't let you use bleach. But no,
there appears to have been a bit of a worrying pre-season trend amongst the squad. Having seen them on Saturday, there are some questionable hair care decisions being made. And we'll leave it at that. Look, it's the dog days of summer. I completely understand it. People want to try something a bit different. Are they going to be able to do that on a rainy Tuesday night at Stoke? That's all I'm saying.
I think one of the dodgy haircuts has had his trim today as well. Look at
Liam Palmer. Yes.
Yeah, no, that was a dodgy cut.
That was very dodgy.
That did raise some amusing, if not entirely appropriate, comments on Twitter. That Liam Palmer's haircut. I don't really feel like I can repeat any of them, but yeah.
I don't know what you mean.
Let's leave him. Leave him.
I think the hair looked like a tarantula is, I think, the only comment we're allowed to read out.
Yeah,
I don't get it, but okay.
Along those lines. Normally, then, in first, pre-season podcast of the season, we'd spend about half an hour talking about transfers, mainly players coming in for certainly the last 2 or 3 seasons. It's a bit different this time because there's not been a huge amount of transfer activity. But let's talk about the really important one first. Andy Rhodes going to Oldham. Nicky Weaver becomes our new goalkeeping coach. Now, forget about players. This is significant. Nicky Weaver, Vic, mine and yours mate, isn't he?
BFS forever. And he was at Owls in the Park, actually, just hanging around with his pram. Like, how old is that child now, James? Like, he must not be in a pram anymore. I don't understand.
It's the baby equivalent of Luke Bowden.
But yeah, he was there with his pram. I think he's great. Like, I know people are calling for Pressman and whatever else, but the fact is Nicky Weaver's been doing that freelance for quite some time, hasn't he? So he's obviously been working with Andy Rhodes as well. So I think that's a really great appointment. The guy bleeds blue and white. We found that out when we spoke to him at Tramlines. Was it last year? Year before? Last year. So we found that out then. He's obviously, he wants to be involved. He was England's number 1. He played for Manchester City. He can't be a bad person to have training our goalkeepers. And I think, there's one good thing that came out of Andy Rhodes leaving, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Was Nicky Weaver England's number 1? Was that true?
Yeah.
And I think he played for England during that weird bit, where we didn't really have a goalkeeper and just ended up settling back on David James. You remember when I think Carson had a go, Kirkland had a go. I think Nicky Weaver had a pop at some point.
Yeah,
and then
Nicky Weaver definitely was. Yeah.
I'm Googling as we speak. And no, he didn't.
We've got
England
England under 21 was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Did he not play for England? No. Honestly. All right then, Man City. Fine, whatever.
I was going to say, the percentage of goalkeepers that we've had that have played for England must be incredibly high if Nicky Weaver had as well. Because Chris Kirkland
all right.
think,
He's as much of England's number 1 as Kieran Westwood. I've said that before, haven't I? Bloody hell.
Oh, dear.
I'll go and put some makeup on and go and make you tea. Hey?
And do it over him while you're at it.
It's like the equivalent of one of them things. You want to say to somebody, how long have you been going around saying that? Because it's wrong. It's like when my mate used to think that the words to the song was Gorilla Gonna Make You Sweat. Do you know what I mean? Like, how long have you been going around saying that?
I don't know. I probably even said it to Nicky Weaver in that interview and he probably agreed.
Yeah, he's
now, you were England's number 1. Yes, I was. It's like, I once, sideline, James, I know you're trying to be professional, but I once, when I worked at Hillsborough, I used to have to take players to, different community events and stuff, and I once took Francis Jeffers to, ironically, a reading week in a Sheffield school, and these kids were asking him about his record and stuff and how much he played, and he told them all about his 100% record for England, and I was just stood there, just chuckling on the sidelines, and he came away like, well, it was true, wasn't it? I was like, well, yeah, but you can't really...
What accent was that, Vic?
Irish.
That's what I thought, yeah.
I'm assuming Andy Rhodes leaves with our best wishes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course.
It was. I thought out of all the things that have happened this summer, actually, the positive comments about Andy Rhodes were probably the nicest of, our sort of periods on Twitter where fans have gone through the ups and downs. Everyone seemed quite nice about Andy Rhodes leaving. Less so about the next departure that we've got to talk about, which was the inevitable. And Yeah, we probably don't need to dwell on it too much. George Hurst, he's gone. He's gone to Belgium.
What? Oh,
bloody hell!
It's gone.
Yeah, whole Fivic. Rich, were you surprised that? Obviously, not that he's gone. That gone to Belgium.
I'm looking forward to the tattoo removal bill for a certain member of the podcast last year had done. So.
He's just thrown his listening device straight out the window. He's probably sitting on his phone now, and he's now in the middle of the main road. We're sorry, Lord H. My apologies. He's gone, mate. You're gonna have to, he's gonna have to get over it, mate. Right. Sorry, brother.
No, I wasn't surprised. I'll be honest, but the fact that it's Leicester City's feeder club, and we all know where he's going to end up in 18 months' time or whatever it is. It's just a little bit. A little bit of a bitter taste in the mouth, but he's gone. So what the hell, you know?
What I don't get about this, right, is that if I can't remember who it was, it might have been Dom that did all the sums in the Star about what we'd likely have got in compensation if it had gone to Leicester against what we are now likely to get in compensation from him going to Belgium, and it's we're going to get something like 250,000, and it would have been like 2 million. What is like 1.75, 2 million pounds to a club like Leicester is nothing. I don't understand the point of doing it if that's the end result is to take him to Leicester. Just pay the compensation. It's like pocket money for a club like Leicester.
Yeah, we maybe should have took the £2 million when they offered it, but it's obviously it was a chance. It's his club. He had the right to turn it down, but I think it's. I think it was more of a bit of honour on his part, wasn't it, than anything to try and drag his heels with the scenario. But he's gone, and we have to get over it.
Two other departures then that we need to talk about. Again, not a great surprise. Vic seems quite happy about this one. You do realise what's going to happen, Vic, here, don't you? You realise that. Yeah. So Jordan Rhodes gone to Norwich, clearly going to end up being
their top scorer.
The
new Dion Dublin.
All of the above, surely, isn't he, Eddie?
Well, he'd already picked up his first injury playing for Norwich in a friendly last week. I noticed, or earlier, was it earlier this week? Last week, at the weekend, yeah, he scored a penalty because Jordan Rhodes doesn't miss penalties, does he? And he always
doesn't bloody take him.
He scored a penalty, and then after 20 minutes, went off injured. So who knows? This could be the biggest bullet that we ever dodged, and it'll end up looking like Norwich were the bigger mugs than us. But look, I'm sure that everybody that is listening to this podcast listened to the truly excellent P&S financial podcast that James, you and these hired guns, these foreigners that you brought in, who apparently know things about stuff. It was
coming over here taking our podcast, bloody
absolutely, or even just staying where they are and taking our podcast. They don't even have to come and emigrate here yet. So it was a brilliant podcast, and it was very, very clear, wasn't it, from Peter's analysis that the single biggest item that we could get off our balance sheet was going to be Jordan Rhodes' wages, in terms of how much it would affect us on the field versus the benefit of having extra cash in the bank. So it was always going to happen. I'm particularly glad that Norwich took him off our hands. I think we all wish him good luck. I don't think anyone has ill feeling towards Jordan Rhodes for the most part, but I think it looks like maybe Father Time has caught up with him. And we were the first ones to suffer, but it looks like we might not be the last. So good luck to him. I got a sneaking suspicion that he's going to have a season for Norwich very much like his season and a half for us. And it's probably sad to see a player's career who was so unbelievable at his best going in that direction. But he is now almost 31, and so it's probably going to happen. But we have done our bit, and as you guys agreed on the financial podcast, a masterstroke by our CEO and the guys involved in making that happen, because that was probably, possibly other than Stephen Fletcher, the biggest single outgoing that could impact our financial situation.
Eddie, would you agree that the transfer of Jordan Rhodes in was somewhat part of the big nail in the coffin for Carlos? I mean, he pretty much, stapled his balls to the mast with the funds that were available and the and that specific transfer. Do you think that was something that he that after time became his demise?
I wonder in what other direction we could have gone at that time. It was clear that we needed something to put us over the top. And so, we were all clamoring for it. And
yeah,
I don't think that anyone in a similar position would have done anything different. That is it's the time served, time honoured January transfer window deal. You bring in a goal scorer that's going to put you over the top and get you up there for the end of the season. And for many, many reasons, it didn't happen. I don't know what other directions we could have gone in, but I think it was probably the nail in the coffin financially, the coffin itself having been prepared by the arrivals of the Fletchers and the Abdis of this world. We did an awful lot of very good business, but the bad business that we did do proved very costly indeed.
Did you say somewhere in there, Eddie, that he's now 31?
Yeah, I think he's 30. He'll be 31 this season. Yeah.
No,
bugger.
I've had to look this one up because I thought I didn't sound quite right. He's 28. So there's life in the old dog yet.
What?
Oh my God. How is this a thing now, right? How is this a thing that I am older than everyone but Tom Lees? How is that a thing? Oh.
I'll tell you what the worst thing is about that is that when he was born, I was gearing up for my first year at big school, and he was born 1990. Do you know what I mean? What were you doing in 1990? He was 1 year old the last time we won some significant silverware. Oh, dear Lord, I'm a million years old.
Oh, that is a worry.
So
one more outgoing then so far this summer, and that is Jack Hunt to Bristol City. Fudge, you are our unofficial Bristol City correspondent because you've got a mate that supports Bristol City. It's as good a reason as any. Thoughts on Jack Hunt's departure?
Well, this one's kind of bittersweet because I was actually quite a fan of Jack Hunt, but to some other extent, I wasn't. In the pro column, I thought, his persistence to committing to that haircut was pretty impressive. Going forward, I think I thought he was great. I think there was some times where he, in the con column, I think he got caught out a lot when it came to the defending side of it. He got caught out of possession a lot. Now, as you said, I've got it's a beautiful segue, by the way. Got a mate who's a Bristol City fan, and he texts me. He texts me like Terry Tibbs from Phone Jack. He went, "Jack Hunt, talk to me." You know what I mean? And as I started listing pros and cons, I was actually thinking, oh Christ, we're losing quite a decent player here. You know what I mean? Like in terms of the list of the players that I think should be shown the door, that one I remember thinking, oh, this must be a financial decision to jettison him, because I think that you have your list, don't you? In any working capacity as well, you have a list of people that you that are on the bottom, and then when that person on the bottom goes, it gets replaced by somebody else, and so on and so on and so on. And then you have some people that claw their way up the list, like, for example, Atinu at the back end of the season. And I thought that there were a good 6 or 7 players below Jack Hunt in that list where, before that I'd have got rid of before him. So I find that not a queer one, but it must have been a financial decision because we got him. He was a proper transfer, wasn't he? He was from a Premier League club, and he was probably on Premier League wages. So I can completely understand it. And whatever Steve Lansdown's doing there at Bristol City, keep an eye on them. Their rugby team, their volleyball team, their ladies football team. There's going to be something's afoot because there's rumblings happening in the West Country.
Out of everybody, Fudge, I know, like you've just said it, but I really didn't expect it to be him. I really, really didn't. I think he was. I really rated him. I thought he was actually quite underrated for us.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time he got a lot of stick. Like you said, he sometimes, he got outrun and whatever else. But he did a lot of good stuff. And when he went, I did kind of think, well, surely it can't be a financial thing. But then, like you said, we did sign a Premier League player. He's going to be on big wages. But he kind of didn't fit in that diva list, if that makes sense. Like, he didn't come across like a Fletcher or a Fessy or a Hooper beyond the 30k a week. I kind of presumed he was on 50 quid, like YTS scheme thing. Yeah, but evidently not. So...
Because he looks like a bloke that hangs around in a car park revving his engine. You don't really have him as that, that type of person.
Is it just me that's not bothered?
Really?
No, I'm not overly fussed.
I'm not overly fussed, but I don't think it's the best person to have got rid of. But I understand it financially.
If you had left us with Liam Palmer...
Yeah, yeah. When the squad numbers came out, and he went number 2, Liam Palmer. Oh, God.
I just believe the meltdown because Liam Palmer got the number 2 shirt. We've got bigger things to worry about than who gets the
There'd have been less of a meltdown if you'd have got the number 2 shirt, James. Like,
I just think that we needed before he went, we needed 2 new fullbacks, wing backs, what you want to call them, a left back and a right back, and we haven't got those. We're not going to particularly get those. So for me, it was like we need a new right back. Let's get rid, and obviously we haven't replaced. So.
I honestly think that it just comes down to the situation that. He had a year left on his contract, so a year from now he could have gone for free if it had decided it was time for him to move on somewhere else. We got, it's rumoured to be somewhere around 1.5, 1.6 million plus an extra million a year saved in wages.
Good money, that.
Knowing the kind of financial situation that we're in, it's actually really good, clever business, that.
Yeah.
Because a year from now, he could have gone. And I know, Fudge, what you say about, there's going to be players, there will be a list somewhere on a wall that no one has access to other than the chairman and the chief exec. There'll be a list of players in the order that, they would most like to, or the players that are the most easy to replace or that we can live without the most. But if no one's coming in for those players and someone does come in for a player that's further down the list, do you say, well, no, we're not going to take that because we hope that someone's going to come in and give us money for one of these players higher up this list? Or do you think, well, do you know what? We can't risk this. We can't. We know we've not spent anything this summer, presumably because we know we can't, because the EFL will not let us register any players because, this unofficial transfer embargo, which we'll talk more about in a bit. You've got to take the money when it's an offer for a player that's got a year left on his contract. You've got to.
Definitely. I would call it the Samuel L. Jackson effect. Samuel L. Jackson had never turned down a gig in his life and has been in some absolute dross movies. He's just gone, do you know what? I don't know how long I'm going to be popular for. I'll just take the money. You know what I mean? It's just like what we did. We Samuel L. Jacksoned him.
That's the first time I've ever heard Jack Hunt compared to Samuel L. Jackson. Let's talk about players coming in. All right, well, that was that.
Tumbleweed.
As yet, no incoming players. It looks like we are kind of under this sort of unofficial transfer embargo. Does this make sense to everyone? Because I've obviously spent like half the summer talking to people about this, and it makes sense to me. And I worry whether or not other people really get what it kind of all means, because you're not allowed to breach financial fair play. So if it looks like you're going to, the EFL can come along and say, right, until we're satisfied that you're not going to breach FFP, then we're not going to let you register any players. You've probably seen the stuff about Birmingham, so they're in this really odd situation where they've bought a player, but they're not able to register him because the EFL have said you're going to end up breaching FFP. So they've got to pay his wages, but they're not allowed to register him or play him. So
there's too many acronyms there, James.
avoid that situation.
VAR, FFP,
and it's not even called FFP anymore. I'm using out of date acronymage there.
Get down with the kids.
Yeah. So look, there's been no official confirmation of this, but it looks likely that we've been told you're not allowed to sign any players. Are we worried? Is this squad going to be good enough as it stands? Can we see any youth players coming in? I don't know. Are we clutching at straws here? I don't know. We surely have the basis of it. It was a good squad 12 months ago. It was a good squad 12 months before that. It will be all right.
We'll be fine.
In all seriousness, were we, even if, apart from the idiots who say, we'll spend 20 million and then we'll go up and then we don't have to care about fines, blah, 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 which obviously, as explained in the F&P podcast, is not an option anymore.
Ding! You're going to do that every time you mention it.
In the real world, where we might have had a bit more of a go at it, and maybe, Chansiri had found 5 million down the back of the sofa or whatever, were we going to sign players that were either A, going to significantly improve what our first 11 looks like, or B, going to fill a hole that we desperately needed filling? And I think the answer to both of those is no. The first part being that we simply don't have the resources to go out and do a Wolves this season or do a Bournemouth this season, even if we were allowed to and if we wanted to. The second part is probably more relevant to us, because if we'd seen large numbers of outgoings in order to balance the books, to get wage bill, get players off the wage bill, etc., then we might find ourselves a bit threadbare. I don't feel like we're exposed to a great extent anywhere other than potentially central defence. And again, we have the argument about whether Hutch can play there. We're playing 3 at the back, which means that you can pull in, a Poodle to sit in that middle section as well. So I'm quite comfortable with the number of players we've got to cover the positions that we need to cover on the field. And given that those players haven't got any worse, I can't see how we are a worse squad than we were this time last year. And actually, given the horrific injury record that we had last year, I certainly feel more optimistic that we can challenge, not at the very top end, but certainly we can challenge at the right end of the table, i.e., our natural position, looking at the talent that we've got at our disposal, would be somewhere between 8th and 12th. And from that point, you've got a launch pad to do something if the dominoes fall the right way. So do we think that we have been penalised by the inability to not bring in players? Inability to bring in players? The ability to not bring in players? I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like we're going to enter the season pretty much where we would have been if this hadn't been hanging over us.
I 100% agree with that. And like last night, Yoss was on that Football Heaven Live thing. I don't often listen to it, but my mum was in the audience and she was going to ask a question and ask if I could have Atti's number. So I wanted to listen. But like the fact that Yoss wouldn't... No, she didn't get a chance to ask. She did get a selfie with him. It's lovely. And he's about 5'2". He's smaller than my mum. Like, how small is he? And she was in a mum trainer, so it's not like she had heels on. But yeah, so he wouldn't answer the question last night. He kept getting asked it. And that was one thing that I found really disappointing, was everyone else was asking Chris Wilder about football, or, whoever else is at wherever else. They were all asking about the football, and with us it was constantly about finances and everyone's obviously listened to James's podcast, but everyone was constantly asking him about embargoes and whatever, and he was like, I can't comment on that. And it's true. He's the manager. He's not the CEO. He's not in charge of anything. And like Eddie said, like, if we don't sign anyone, we've still got probably 3 or 4 players that the rest of the league hates because they're so good and they wind teams up so much. Look how much everyone hates Forestieri, hates Bannon, hates Reach, hates Westwood. Like, there's loads. So let's just go with it. Like, last season was shite. This season can't get much worse. Hey ho.
Well, I mean, it can get worse, can't it? But
yeah.
I mean,
well, it can, but I've only got a season ticket till the end of this year, and then I'm out. So I'm all right.
I think it's going to be a long old season. I think well, we'll get to the Mansfield game at some point later on, but there was just a few things that I know it was only friendly and yada yada yada, but there was just a lot of things that concern me. I think it's going to be a long old season. But you're right, Vic. Just doesn't really get asked about football matters much, does he? He doesn't go, hey, what's your preferred formation? What's our plan B if you've got one? Who's your main striker for next season? He doesn't really get asked those questions, does he?
But there's not a lot to ask, though, is there? Because nothing's really changed from last season. We sort of know the answers to these questions, don't we? So it's going to be stuff about, are there going to be any players coming in? Well, I don't know. Well, why don't you know what's going on? Well, I can't really answer that. I guess it's natural that's the kind of stuff that's going to be asked. There's not going to be, come first game of the season on Saturday, there's not going to be any great surprises, is there, about how we line up or who plays or anything, because, there's not a lot that's really changed.
Well, I'd have given him 2 questions I can think of straight away that aren't involved around FMP and the rest of it. But yeah,
is one of them to do with Liam Palmer?
No.
Is the other one to do with Little Mix?
One's Little Mix and the other's a Toyota Celica. but we'll move on from there.
What was his best knob gag?
Yeah.
Oh dear, I've got to try and segue this into a sponsorship mention now, and that's just I lost the whole thing. You're listening to the Wednesday Week, brought to you with our friends at the Riverside Cafe. Always the best place for a pint before the match, and after the match, for that matter.
And during the match on a really bad day.
Yeah, that's happened, hasn't it?
I was the king of it last year. Absolutely, 35 minutes was my record.
It was.
I've never.
Sod.
I've stayed in the pub after the game's kicked off thinking, I don't really care. But this was like, a few years ago, it was like an end of the season sort of game where I thought, I'll go in at like 15-20 or something like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go, Rich.
I left, I think, probably twice in my life before last season. And then one time last year, I was sat in Castleton thinking, right, do I go to the game or do we carry in a pub here? And we stayed in the pub. And then I think about 2 or 3 times I left early, culminating in the 35th minute against Birmingham. And I got very drunk that day too.
The worst thing was the kind of perfect storm happened last year, which was good beer finally became available under the North Stand at the same time that Wednesday's performances became unbearable in the North Stand. And so, therefore, I spent an awful lot of last year not watching the match or having it on the TVs while enjoying quite nice beer. I actually don't know what made me happier, that or seasons where we almost got promoted.
Should we talk about a subject now that's going to make all of us really, really happy, because this is mega important? Stripes.
Go on.
Stripes.
Blue and white stripes. The correct number of them. I believe it's the right blue. I believe it's the right
central white stripe
that's in the middle. Everything is correct. There's no issues. It's got black shorts. It's got everything that everyone wants. If anyone's going to find a negative from this, who's it going to be? Dan Fudge, tell us why you don't like the new shirt.
I tell you what. All right. What I realised was I ordered it straight away as soon as I saw it available. So on the first day, I paid me £60, and I received it, knowing full well what it looked like. And I went through a bit of an epiphany wearing this shirt when I put it on and tried it on. And like I said, go a size higher or a couple of sizes higher, because it's that super dry style fitting, unless you're in good enough shape to buy the 90-odd quid one. But the main issue I had when I had it on wasn't the Microsoft Publisher Elevate logo, which I still can't get on board with. It's the fact that I don't look like Joey Pelopessi when I'm wearing the shirt. Do you know what I mean?
Which bit are you failing on?
Well, man boobs, waistline, arms, the lot, the lot. Just the full lot. So there's me thinking, look at Pelopessi there wearing that. That's a thing of beauty, that, isn't it? But yeah, I don't look like him. So bloody rubbish. And 2, I think 59 quid is expensive. But I get what we're trying to do, and I get what Chansiri's trying to do, and he's trying to make it a bigger brand. And with expense becomes an automatic putting on a pedestal of a brand. For example, Nike is always a great example. They just made their stuff dear, and people thought that they were a quality garment. But 60 quid's a lot of money, especially given the area that we're in. But I quite like it. It looks like the 1999 kit that we inevitably got relegated in. So that's nice, isn't it?
You know what? They talk about Nike. When you actually get, I don't want this to turn into the Wednesday Week, YouTube unboxing channel or something. But I got mine on Saturday, and it is comfortably by a wide margin, not only the most well-made, quality-feeling Wednesday shirt that we've had since the Umbro days, but it is of a higher quality and finish than the England shirt that I bought for the World Cup. And, that is Nike, and it cost me 59 quid. So it's pretty much exactly the same deal. You know what I love the most about this new Wednesday shirt is that going back to the early 90s, what was the best thing about shirts? They all had batshit insane shadow printing on the texture. So you didn't just get a shirt. Wednesday shirts weren't blue and white striped. They were blue and white striped with crazy madcap Aztec patterns in them, or Puma King.
The Puma King logo. Yeah.
So all of that kind of stuff. King. So now underneath the arms, down the side of the shirt, we have the Elevate number 8. Down there in shadow printing. It's beautifully done.
Eddie, you absolute arsehole. I didn't even see that. I've just got it in my hand now.
Get it out now.
Do you know where it is, right? I don't know if you read the thing where it went that you can have the fitted,
Pro
90 quid
version.
one, Pro Fit one, or the mesh supporters top or whatever it is. So the mesh that they've essentially stitched in for the fat lads has got the Elevate logo in it. I didn't even see that. I've had to get it out. I've had to stand up, and I'm very
I
happy
bet the
about
women's
that.
one doesn't actually, because I have a women's one. And just a note to any women listening, get a size bigger, because it's
I think that applies
tight.
to everyone. I think it applies to everyone.
I was quite excited this year for many reasons, because I was no longer wearing a size 20 top. Now I wear a size 12 or 14 top, unless it's from Sheffield Wednesday, in which case I'm in a 60, which is a very sad point in my life. I was just like, well, what have I spent all this money on?
On Saturday, there was I was standing in the queue for shirt printing, because I bought kits for the kids as well, so they have to have their names on the back. Obviously, because I'm an overgrown child, I had to have sausage arms on the back of mine, so I was there waiting for him to get printed. And a bloke came in, and he didn't want to go to the queue. The queue was quite long in the Megastore at that point for the tills, so he went up to the lady who was doing a print. He said, "Excuse me, love, what's biggest size to go up to this year?" And she said, "Oh, it's 4XL, love." He goes, "Oh, bloody hell, that won't fit me then," and walked straight back out again. that is aspirational right there.
4XL.
If you can get a 4XL for 59 quid, probably represents amazing value for money.
Yeah. You can probably
two
put your
shirts in
duvet
one.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Put your whole family in there.
I've not thought of it like that. It could be quite tight like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you what, I think a fantastic kit. And you know what? I wonder whether at some point a couple of years ago, Chansiri was saying, I'm going to tell them all I don't like stripes. I'm going to tell them all I don't like stripes. And they're going to go absolutely hanging out for stripes. They're going to be like, yeah, come, just bring stripes back. Just bring stripes back. And they're going to bring the stripes back, and we'll sell 50 times as many kits at double the price. Cha-ching! He's not an idiot.
It's reverse psychology, isn't it? It's very clever.
Sorry, James. It is, yeah. I was just about to say to you, James, I bet you didn't think you were going to get that much content out of mentioning the kits, did you?
I honestly thought that you would just go, bloody rubbish, and that'd be it. We'd just move on.
Move on.
No, sorry. My apologies.
Has anyone bought the away shirt? Because I think the away shirt's way nicer than the home shirt.
It's beautiful. Again, really well made as well.
It's the best away shirt certainly since the playoff season.
I'd go further than that. I think it's probably the nicest looking away shirt since the Lee Strafford let's rip off the 93-94 black with yellow pinstripes season. That was a beautiful looking away shirt. This one I think might be even nicer. It's lovely colour up close as well.
I think we've just talked about the kits for about 10 minutes without any real whinging.
No, I must admit, the Elevate logo, I'm aware is not going to go away anytime soon, and so.
Oh yeah, no, hang on. Yeah, you did have a bit of a whinge about that, didn't you?
Yeah, I'll have a pop at that because I hate it.
Right.
It is bloody awful. All right, back. We're back in the game, kids.
Right, let's talk about membership pricing then, because this is the other thing that people have been whinging about a bit. Membership's got up it's like 45%. To £90 a season. Eddie, is it fair or is it a rip-off?
Look, I've I've defended a lot of the decisions that have been made on the commercial side because it's vital that we increase revenue from those revenue streams. However, what is the reason that people get membership for Sheffield Wednesday historically? It has been a combination of a small discount at the club store and priority for tickets. So you're kind of in between the real fans, the season ticket holders, and the complete fly-by-night, Johnny-come-lately, pay on the gate job. So what is that worth? I think people would say 30, 40, 50 quid, as it has been for most of the last 20 years. I think that's fair enough. 90 quid with the promise of some nebulous discounts off spend of already overpriced stuff in the club shop, I think feels like fans are being shaken down. At which point you've got to say, is the intention to effectively say, if you're loyal, if you want to do your bit to contribute and you can't afford a season ticket, you'll do this. I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. It seems too much. And in combination with the price of match day tickets, I don't see that it represents a good deal. Now, I would say, I'd urge people, the cheapest way to go and watch Sheffield Wednesday is to get a season ticket. I also am acutely aware that people don't always have the funds to do that, and some people have to pick and choose matches. But right now, with that and the membership, it feels like those people, the people who are probably least able to watch Wednesday and devote finances to doing so, are being asked to subsidise the rest of us. And that, to me, doesn't feel right.
Do you think, does this thing work? Because surely the idea of the membership means you get a discount on tickets. So the ultimate idea is that it sort of encourages you to go to an extra game or two because you're saving a bit of money off the ticket price. To make it 90 quid, I mean, I've seen so many people on Twitter that have just said, well, I'm not going to bother renewing my membership, which probably means they're going to go to fewer games. I just can't, I can't get my head around whether or not this is genuinely going to bring, extra tens, hundreds of thousands into the account. Because if it's not, I just don't see what the point is. Because we need
break even,
big money coming in, don't we?
Oh, we do, and look, that's a whole different issue. Where do we get that big money from? We can talk about the price of executive boxes. With anything, it's about finding a sweet spot, and it feels like Wednesday under Mr. Chansiri have gone bollocks to the sweet spot. We're just going to go max, and see how many people can hang on for the ride. You'd have to attend 18 games every season to break even on your discount for membership, which is absolutely insane. Because if you could afford to go and buy 18, pay on the day match day tickets, you've already spent enough to have a season ticket. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't stand up. It's madness. And I can only imagine that the net revenue that comes from memberships this year will be vastly lower than what it was last year and the year before that.
I've had kind of a bit of an insight into the commercial side of it this year because I've been and spoke to them about sponsorship, and it's significantly lower than it was before. So you can get a player sponsorship for 750 quid for the season.
I think that's only for either the home kit or the away kit, isn't it? The full
correct
player sponsorship, I think, is still 1,500 plus VAT, of course. So it's still steep.
Well, you say that compared to other clubs. Not clubs, other sporting companies in Sheffield, it's cheaper. I'm not going to name them. Don't ask me to. I'll tell you off air. But I just thought they kind of got it a bit. I mean, even the answer to I think last year VIP mascot was about $1,000 or something. And that's 500 quid, or just 200 quid for an ordinary one this time round, which I think is a bit more affordable. Because when I was a kid, it was 100 quid to be a mascot, and that's why I never was one. But I think they brought that down after they realised how steep it was. But I think they're trying to readdress some of the how expensive it has been. And I know that the player sponsorship goes in two levels. So you get players who are in the first team are $1,000 for home or away, and then 750 as you come down into players that aren't necessarily going to play as much.
I think it's something that I think we've talked about in the past on this podcast, but I've always banged about it for ages. Surely the best way to generate revenue is to make it attractive for people to get into the stadium, and that goes for fans walking in through the turnstiles on the Kop and corporate entertainment and executive boxes and blah blah blah. But give them enough stuff to spend on while they're in there and make that attractive. Yeah. You're then going to make far more money than just hiking up the entry cost in the first place, and then providing what generally has been a fairly fair to middling service, hasn't it?
So go on.
So if I was looking at how we can make a real step change, a real difference, like James said, to bring real revenue into the club, I think that's the way to do it, would be to actually almost have match tickets as a loss leader, but make sure that people are spending money on a high quality, high margin product when they're in there.
I'm going to use Haaland as an example because that's where I've got most kind of experience at a level like doing this. But we give tickets away, and then you'll see a guy going and buying a pie, going and buying a pint, going to buy a hat, a scarf, maybe even a shirt. And before it, for the £5 it costs to get in there that you've waived, they're spending money on goods, and if they see a good quality thing, they'll come back as well and pay to get in. So there is that. Like, you're absolutely right. It's a loss leader for us to get people in there, but once they get in there, and then you see them posting pictures. I mean, posting a picture on social, alone is worth its weight in gold. When you see something like, we got free tickets, we bought a hat, scarf, and whatever, and it just multiplies up to right through to the Premier League, not just non-league or whatever, or Sheffield Wednesday.
Rich, you are also our correspondent here for pre-season friendlies, because I think you're the only person that's been to all of them. I say all of them.
That's correct. All three.
There's only been three.
Three public ones. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like that. I mean, that's a really normally we have like what, a good 5 or 6. 3 seems really low.
I think there's been about 3 behind closed doors as well. So I think Bradford was one. Yeah. Was it Brada and? There was another one, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, you're right. There was another one. Give us the lowdown on the pre-season games.
So Lincoln, first game out. I suppose I got a chance to go and see Terry from Owls Online down there as well, because he's now the media manager down at Lincoln City. He's got his dream job. It's good to see Terry. The match was okay. It wasn't fantastic. It was exactly what it was. It's the first pre-season game back. And do you know what the scary thing was? Liam Palmer actually looked all right in that game. But it's only Lincoln. And since then, he's probably Villarreal, apart from his goal. But I thought they did all right that night. And it was a good turnout, down there. And really good atmosphere and everything. And really enjoyed the night down there. Mansfield, we were shit. We were first-rate dog shit. Even to the point where some guy in the stand was giving a...
Stop sitting on the fence, Rich.
No, we were. There's no two ways about it. Some guy in the stand was giving Hutch a load of grief, and Hutch turned around and told him to shut up twice, really vociferously. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute, mate. This is just
I'd love him to tell me to shut up.
Oh, no, you wouldn't. I thought it was
I would.
I thought it was a tool for it. You shouldn't.
No, I think that's wonderful.
I don't know what the bloke said, but you can't be doing that stuff, shouting at fans. Not in pre-season, not at any time really. But anyway, and then obviously it kicked off afterwards, which you can't say a lot on. All I can say what I saw was that Fessy obviously went through the back of that player. He then got pushed over. He got a ball through at him, and then at the final whistle, I saw Fessy running off the pitch to get away from the players. I saw one of the Mansfield players kung fu kick Tom Lees, and we've all seen the pictures on social media since. So you can't hide that one. But apart from that, I've heard rumours from a friend of him that knows a Mansfield physio what was said. But obviously then it's all down to the FA to deal with that one now, isn't it? But obviously got he said, she said with Wednesday saying one thing and Mansfield saying another.
Mm-hmm. If I'm honest with that one, Richard, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It's a pre-season friendly. Nobody can prove anything either way. Let's just move on with his lives. It's not even worth discussing.
I think you're right, yeah. What about Villarreal? Was anyone else at this game on Saturday? I missed it.
Yeah, I went to it.
Go on then. What was it like? If Twitter's to be believed, it was the worst game ever. We were terrible, shocking. Tactically, he's clueless. Blah blah blah.
Right. So the first thing I'd say to that is that it was a pre-season friendly where we made 11 changes from the starting 11 throughout the course of the game. So anyone who was watching it as a game of football is missing the point entirely. I really enjoyed it from the point of view of it was great to get back to Hillsborough. It was a decent crowd. It was great to see, the new kit, and it felt like the start of a new season. It was as chilled out as you'd want one of those major friendlies to be. And it reminded me of the was it Braga game that we had a couple of seasons ago, where I think we came away with the win. Benfica, wasn't it? Yeah. We could easily have come away with a win on Saturday if we'd have gone full tilt. Equally, we were playing against a team that had Santi Cazorla playing for them, a team that had Ndai playing for them. They were quality players, and even given both teams going at 60%, there were going to be openings in defences and there were going to be goals. I don't think we really showed an awful lot, and I wasn't expecting us to. I think that when Villarreal put moves together, I think we struggled because we weren't playing at full tilt, and we weren't playing for the game to change pace in the way that it did at times. Now, we don't know what Jos was asking the players to do. We don't know what the instructions were. It may well have been that there was lack of concentration. It may well have been that he said, "Look, go out there, get some miles under your belt. Don't go in hard. Don't necessarily chase back every runner." It might be the case of trying something differently tactically. So I'm not going to sweat it. I enjoyed it as a spectacle, and given that there were, I think I spotted in the south stand about 6 Villarreal fans because there was no segregation. They were just kind of dotted around. It was kind of interesting to see Villarreal scoring some. A couple of really, really quite well-worked goals, and for the Wednesday fans to just give a nice round of applause. It was more like a day at the cricket than a day at the football. Did it tell us anything about this season? Probably not, but it was nice to get back to it and just get back into the rhythm of a Saturday afternoon, a couple of pints and 90 minutes. So, yeah, job done.
Did anyone stand out? Any players that particularly looked... good, sharp.
Yeah, Santi Cazorla was all right.
I thought the first half we played reasonably all right. The passing was fairly good. The second half I didn't bloody see because we were 4 of us for the front of South Stand, and the Villarreal fitness coach decided to warm all about 23 players up in front of us. So I couldn't see a damn thing for the whole of the second half. But that's is what it is. You live and learn.
I'd be demanding you £15 back for that.
I've not written a letter yet, or a strongly worded tweet. So no, I thought we were all right first half. I wasn't particularly worried, and I think the only thing that disappointed me, and no shock, Jones, Fox.
Yeah,
when they kept both for pants.
You could see the difference in quality once we started to really get into the substitutes. And actually, you're right. It was. Jones and Fox. It wasn't the kids that came on, didn't look out of place. That they were just playing to the pace of the game, and I think they were reveling in what was for them quite a big game. Some of them don't have much experience. I think our problem again this season, if there is one, is going to be that that drop off from the first 14, 15 players that we have. So that's why it's paramount that we try and avoid injury this season. But especially in the first half, I think we pretty much matched them. We were quite fortunate, weren't we, for Palmer's goal? It was, it was again like our goals that we conceded, defending you just kind of lost concentration, etc., make a mistake. But I think we held our own against a good side, and the likes of Peli Pessi, I thought was very strong. I thought Poodle, who was was he the only player to stay on for the full 90 for us? Poodle was excellent. He just looked very composed and very solid. So, you can't take too much out of those games, can you? It was about fitness more than anything.
I get that, Eddie. There was I watched it on the Owls Talk feed, which was great, by the way. I mean, whoever set that up, thank you very much. But yeah, the Owls Talk feed sent it through, and defensively we looked a little. I don't know what the word is. When you're playing in defence, what you need to do is just learn where to stand. You know, as 80% of the game is to be a nuisance in a specific place and having the fitness to carry off to be in that place, to stand there. But I felt that Tom Lee specifically looked a little bit like he didn't know what day it was. And we got carved apart for a couple of goals. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I agree with you. These finished fifth in the Spanish league, which, you know, a lot of people write off, including myself at times, that it's a bit of a Mickey Mouse league, that there's only 2 teams in it, like the one in Scotland back in the 90s. But, you know, I don't get me wrong, they were a much better team than us. But I just think that there was a few bread and butter things that we didn't quite get right. But they were in the second half. But Tom Lee's, for me, stuck out. And obviously Palmer, but I don't want to pile on with Palmer because I think everybody's got a voice about him. And I'm in the camp with the Liverpool fans who are not trying to jump on the back of Karius because his confidence is already shot to shit. Why do I need to pile on anymore? You know what I mean? But I think he knows. He's a professional footballer. He should know, you know, about him, you know, keeping the ball too long and not knowing where to stand. But Tom Lee's, for me, was a concern, and I think we're missing a big centre-back. Would you agree?
The thing that made me think that maybe they were being told to try something different was that Tom Lees was finding himself in very, very unfamiliar positions for us. He wasn't just kind of lolloping forward, you know, getting to the halfway line, getting a nosebleed and then finding an easy pass. He was actually kind of doing that rampaging forward bit. And I wonder whether Jos was saying, look, let's try this, knowing that you've got 2 cover defenders. Are you going to be someone who's going to, you know, bring something different this season? So I don't know. But yeah, he was certainly out of position where defensively, you know, after those moves forward.
Rich, were you going to say something then?
I was, but I changed my mind.
All right. Eddie, somewhere in among all that, you mentioned about some of the younger players, the kids that kind of came on and got a bit of game time. And I want to talk about this a little bit because it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that our younger players, although they played a bit of a role last season, like, it's unlikely we're going to be having anyone new in before the start of the season. We might see 1 or 2 players in during before the loan window closes, maybe. But we are going to be certainly in the positions where we've not got strength in numbers. We're going to be relying on some of the youth players this season, some of the younger players who are kind of I could describe it as coming into their own a little bit, because I'm kind of happy about this. I think that this is something that we should be doing, and we talked about it quite a bit last season. And I think that the players that got their chance last season really did stand out and really did shine. And you know, obviously Sean Clare has gone. I don't know where he's gone, but he's
I googled this today, and he's nowhere. He's not gone anywhere yet.
He's vanished, isn't
he?
But yeah, you know, it's not a bad thing as being a little bit more reliant on bringing through those younger players this season, is it?
I think it's a real opportunity for some of these guys to make a break it. You know what I mean? If we're gonna get some injuries, I don't know. Is Ash Baker going to push Palmer, etc.? These players going to push the young lads come through, and they've got nothing to lose, really, have they? You know what I mean? I think Wednesday have generally been okay bringing kids through, the fans-wise I'm talking, not getting on the backs too much. But I think it's their season now to shine, isn't it? And it's only a positive, that.
Which brings me to the subject of kind of our hopes for the season and how we think this season will go. Eddie, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier when you kind of talked about, you know, kind of potential league positionings for the squad as it is now. What about everyone else? What are hopes for the season? What do you think? For me, I'm really, what I have liked is over the last couple of days seeing some really positive stuff coming from the players, So there's this barbecue thing that they've had for Atti's birthday. And seeing stuff like seeing Fessy and Winall, in the same time zone, which we haven't for a while and stuff like that. Makes me think, obviously.
How good did that barbecue look, though? It looked amazing.
It did.
I'm only round the corner. I could have gone round. Well, you can't enjoy it,
I don't think it was good for veggie options. No, it didn't look great for veggie options.
There's a lot of meat.
No,
there's a lot of stuff.
All of the
halloumi.
meat was on the fire.
Grilled halloumi. That's what it needs.
Wow.
Yeah. So what do you reckon? Hopes for the season. What do you reckon, Vic?
I don't know yet. I think I'll just have to wait and see. I'm not overly hopeful, and I think that's quite a good place to be. I'll be happy if we finish mid-table, I think. I'd be ecstatic if we end up in the playoffs. Obviously, I'd die if we end up in automatic. But I don't know. I don't want to put the pressure on myself more than anything. Like, it's all right saying you don't want to put pressure on them. They don't even know who I am. I could go and hit Atty, and he wouldn't even know who I was. No, he would, because of the restraining order.
Yeah.
But, yeah, for me, it's just, let's just see what happens. We've paid for a season ticket for a reason. If you're going to win every week, it'd be shit. If you're going to lose every week, it'd be shit. If you're going to draw every week, it'd be shit. So let's just go with it. Let's just see what happens.
I think I'm kind of the same with it. I think our team as it stands is probably a mid-table team. All this, when Abdi gets back to being fit, he'll be like having a new signing. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. He's broken. What I'd like to see is if Ati Nuhu continues his form or continues his selection into the team as well. You know what I mean? I kind of like this bromance he's got with Zhao at the minute. It's kind of nice to see. But I'm going to go into this season the same way I went into the World Cup with England. You know what I mean? Expect no, and plan for the worst, hope for the best. It's as simple as that. That I'm just going to go in, and we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? I can't ruin how I felt last season. So if we got into a relegation dogfight, I wouldn't feel as bad as what we did losing to Burton 3-0 at home.
I'm with you, Fudge. I think I've got no expectations for the season whatsoever, so I kind of guess everything's a positive. So I think it will be interesting. Can Atty, and I gave him a load of grief last year, and for me, he's still got to do. He did it for the second half of the season, but I want to see him do it for at least for a half a season this year. That preferably this first half.
Oh, he will. He will.
We'll see, Vic.
And he's going to wear a little vest that says "Fuck off, Rich" every time he scores.
If he has a full season, scores 20 goals, I will have that shirt. I'll wear it. Atty says "Fuck off, Rich." I will wear it.
Yeah, but that's not good enough. I want it tattooed, or I want you to get Atty or number 17 just tattooed.
Hey, look, if by the end of this season we have actual merchandise with Atty Says in the old Frankie Says 1980s style, I will die happy no matter what happens.
I don't have a laptop. I'll have to do it at some other point.
I was going to say, can we not knock up a T-shirt saying Atty Says "Fuck off, Rich"?
Yeah. I can do that, but it'll take me a few weeks until I've got a laptop.
Okay, we will as soon as they become available, we'll let you know.
Would we all be happy sitting here this time next season, looking back on a season where Wednesday finished 10th, and we seen Jordan Thornley, Ashley Baker, even the likes of Matt Penny, Connor Kirby, them becoming established championship players in the same way that that Liam Palmer broke in and made himself part of the furniture. Do you think that would represent progress for this club, given the financial constraints that we're working under? And
I would be so happy. I'd be happy, but I'd rather be better than Liam Palmer.
I'd take that now. I would take that now.
Yeah, I've got to agree.
I'd take that.
Yeah, I think this season. This is the first season for a while that we've not got into it with any great expectation, which is great in terms of the fact that for us as fans, we can actually just get on with enjoying it, enjoying going to the match. There isn't any pressure on us this season. We're not expected to get promoted this season. Let's just enjoy it. And I think, realistically, I think that most realistic fans would say that, around mid-table, maybe top half, maybe, with an eye on the playoffs, but not really kind of in there or thereabouts. That would be kind of maybe where we're thinking is where we're going to be this season. So anything above that is a bonus. So let's just, let's enjoy the ride and look forward to seeing what impact some of these younger players can have, because that ultimately will really dictate what the next probably 2 or 3 seasons are going to be like, because we ain't going to be going out spending shitloads of money next summer or the summer after. So kind of what we've got coming through now in terms of our younger players, if we can get them this season looking something like that, gives us real hope for next season, for moving forward from there. So I'd be delighted with that. Talking about specifics then, so Wigan coming up on Saturday, first game of the season. I don't like the idea of playing a team that's just been promoted on the first game of the season. I know Wigan are kind of like, they're going through a takeover. They've not really brought any new players in. They're kind of a little bit all over the place. But you know what it's like when teams that have just come up.
And just canned off Ross Wallace, haven't they, after a trial?
Yeah. But I think that's because they genuinely they don't have any money. They can't afford to bring in anyone at the moment. They're like midway through a takeover, and the old owner's not willing to spend anything.
Is Dave Wheeler not involved there anymore?
No, he went a while ago, didn't he?
Did you know he broke his leg once in a cup final?
Yeah, I heard that once. I heard that. I think didn't his son take over? Did he not pass it on to his young lad?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
Is that Noel?
His grandson.
Noel used to play for Leeds and Coventry.
It was his grandson.
Yeah. I must be selling out. DW Fitness must not be doing well, because JJB was such a good business model.
You worked there, did you?
Yeah. I think I did. I think I worked in both shops in Meadowhall. There was a point where I'd ran out of all of men's and sports shops to work in. What was that one there? Baron John worked there for a bit. Debenhams, Marks and Spencers. Oh yeah, I've Meadowhall, mate, completed
it. You've got the sticker book.
Come on then, predictions. Wigan. What do you reckon, Eddie?
I have no problem with playing promoted teams. I know, they're in a winning mentality and blah blah blah. They aren't as good as us. 2-0 Wednesday. Done.
Fair enough, Vic.
Who knows? Yeah, 2-0 Wednesday sounds quite good, actually. I'd enjoy that.
Let's all say 2-0 Wednesday. I'll say 2-0 Wednesday. Fudge?
1-0 Will Grigg. Hope the ticks come on. Hey! You see that? I did an internet there. I did a meme. I don't know if you've seen the little tooth kid that crosses his hands. I did that. Yeah, 2-0 Wednesday. I'll take 2-0 Wednesday.
Dicky?
I was going to go 2-0 Wednesday, but
hey, there we go.
There we go.
Yes, put a bet on now, everybody. 50p each. Let's do it. If we win, we have to
spend it on Atty Says shirts.
Buy me a present.
Right, so what we're going to do each week, before the podcast, we're going to ask our listeners for questions, and we're each going to take a question at the end of the podcast. So, Fudge, to you first. Your question comes from @ForeverForest TV. I don't know who that is. It appears to be some kind of Nottingham Forest related thing.
Doing a bit of moonlighting for the Tricky Trees when they were playing the Wednesday last year.
Right, okay. Well, they asked basically whether or not you would do a Mick McCarthy impression, preferably reenact his resignation.
To be fair, this is not actually the farthest stretch of an impression to do, given my accent and outlook on life. But we'll give
it's
it a
still
go.
funny. Your Mick McCarthy impression is still
like
funny.
Me. Yeah, it is, yeah. Oh, none of the bloody fans like me. I'm buggering off. Bloody rubbish. Get in the bloody bin. I'm done with you bastards. Yeah, you're all bastards. Yeah, there you are. What about that? Thanks very much. See you later. Dan Fudge, good night.
It sounds very similar to your pissed off Wednesday fan impression, to be honest.
Yeah. I drew a lot from that. You know what I mean? I'm a method actor, so I drew a lot from pissed off Yorkshiremen to do that. So you're welcome.
Dicky, you get a genuine question. So this is from Tom Stab, who is at Tom Stab. In the absence of new signings, who do you think of the current squad will be the one to kind of step up to the mark? Who do you think is going to be the most improved player?
It's a really good question. Thornley, I think. I don't think he'll be a regular, but I think he might be the one for me that can get into that team and start making a place
is
his
he your
own.
type on paper? It might be the one for me.
You've been drinking?
No, I wish I had.
Okay.
I think you just broke into a Dan Fudge style Mick McCarthy impression there. It might be the one for me.
It might be one for me, but I'm not sure.
And then
yet.
Usman went up to the shop to get us some
Eddie
bread.
got it. As long as Eddie gets it, then I'm all right.
All pop
Is this
culture all the time.
some Love Island shit?
No, yeah.
Vic, your
That's why we
question
don't get
comes from a Twitter account called @OwlsTalk. Not sure who they are. Which Wednesday players do you think go to a salon to get their eyebrows done?
Well, do you know what? I'd like to think Adam Reach, but I also wouldn't like to think that. I'd like to think that he's just that naturally beautiful. Atty defo gets his beard done somewhere. But no, I'll go Adam Reach. I think Adam Reach. Hit me up, bibs. I'll do your eyebrows. I've got one of them no things that lasers you. You never have to have them done again.
Do they work on male eyebrows?
You've lost it.
No.
They don't.
Well, they work on dark hair. I'm not knowing any of you. So, no.
This is the most I've ever talked about, any kind of eyebrow
Hair removal
kit,
with me. Yeah, and I don't want to continue it, to be honest. But no, Adam Reach, defo. Oh, and Jack Hunt, but now he's gone. I don't know. Who else? Who do you think gets their eyebrows done? Pelopessi, probably.
No, he's just naturally beautiful. I think Yoss maybe. has a grooming
maybe.
regime.
Yeah.
I think they're quite unnatural. Yoss's eyebrows. I think Gary Hooper.
Gary Hooper.
Yeah, Hoops, definitely.
He's
a
naked
well-groomed
from
man.
the neck down.
Pardon?
Do you know what I mean? Just like. Whoosh.
Does he use
Gary
your
Hooper.
device to
My
do it?
no.
Anyway, my
could
question.
do if you wanted to.
My question comes from @MontyDangerous, who sent us actually a lot of questions, the majority of which weren't particularly serious, and then said, on a boring note, is the 2018-19 season going to be an exercise in financial efficiency, where the end position doesn't really matter as long as we're not relegated? It's just about cost cutting being the only objective. I would defer you to the third in our Financial Fair Play special podcasts, which I believe covers this subject to a great extent, and also directly. It kind of is, yeah, pretty much. It is just about this season. It's what we said earlier, isn't it? It's kind of, if we sort of resign ourselves to it not being a season of expectation. Anything above that is a bonus, and making sure for love nor money we do not end up breaching financial fair play, because that would be an absolute disaster for us. Eddie, you get the really good question, which again comes from this Twitter account @OwlsTalk. If Shabba Ranks and Timmy Mallet teamed up for a fun ragger track about a Wednesday player, who would it be and what would the title be? And I'm going to add my own thing on here. Could you sing us the opening line, please?
So, first of all, if I was picking a breakfast TV personality to team up with Shabba Ranks for a fun ragger track, it would, of course, be Zig and Zag from The Big Breakfast, because they have a previous with their seminal 1994 hit, The Girls, they all love me. So I think it was probably Shabba with Zig and Zag. And as far as the Wednesday team are concerned, I don't think there's anyone that lends themselves naturally to Ragger. But just a few title ideas. We can maybe spitball these around, and obviously at Sausage Arms on Twitter if you want to flesh these out with me. How's about Barry Bannan Imbi Ragaman?
Brilliant.
Or perhaps Jar Wildsmith.
Wow. I don't even know if that's racist.
Or just potentially, if we're looking to, be a bit more political, get a little bit under the skin of the Wednesday squad and how the fans feel about them. What about Waste Man Abdi?
Is that a reference to the Magic Majid? The mayor. Is that
absolutely? Yeah, exactly. Imbi Westman. So no, I think we need to maybe workshop a few verses and stuff like that. But I will be more than happy to drop science. If anyone wants to hit me up with some suggested lyrics, I can put something together. And there may well be some Ragger themed intro to next week's show.
Well, I think this stuff writes itself. To be fair, Eddie. I mean, you already came up with Zig and Zag. You were naming Sheffield Wednesday players. You could literally go down the route of Apella Pessi, them goes the girls, Apella Pessi. You know what I'm saying? This stuff writes itself, man.
You know what you need to do, Eddie? You need to get on the phone, get hold of Royston Drenthe. Remember him? Because he went into rap, didn't he, after he retired from football at like 30 or whatever.
Oh my God, what a blast from the past.
That is my all-time
Williams as well might be a good call.
That was absolutely glorious, James. You can pat yourself on the back for that. That was a beautiful segue. I really enjoyed the way you did that. Royston Drenthe, yes, he became a rapper. We're talking about music of black origin. I really enjoy everything you just did then.
That's it. Next week we need to get Royston Drenthe on the show to do a fun ragger track. I mean, we're definitely selling this to him. A fun ragger track.
In all seriousness,
with Eddie.
Can we get him on the show?
Right, Drenthe versus Sausage Arms rap battle.
If anyone listening knows Royston, get him on. Like we can Skype him, we can phone him, whatever floats his boat. Let's get him on. That'd be amazing.
Man, don't scare me. I got bare bars, fam. Yeah.
Wow.
Right, well, I reckon that is just about it from the Wednesday week for now. We'll be back next week, including a look ahead to our first home game of the season, which, of course, sees us lot back in our pre-match home at the Riverside Cafe, and it feels like it's been a while since we've been there. We'll catch you next week.
Chance here.